the previous episodes, Sir Rafi accompanied us to discover more of the Western classical art traditions through artwork, usage, and medium. Good day, everyone! I'm your Sir Chill, and welcome to Art is Chill. We are now on the next level of our adventure to complete the symbols in our medallion. During 300 years of Spanish colonization, Western influences were seen in Philippine art forms such as painting, sculpture, and architecture. And one good example of that is Intramuros. The walled city of Intramuros was built by the Spaniards some 400 years ago as their political and military base in Asia. And it is one of the most famous historical landmarks here in Manila. Today, as the tour continues, another art-amazing experience awaits you as we unveil more artworks guided by techniques and style and appreciate the influence of iconic artists in the Western classical art traditions. But before we go, I prepared an activity that will activate your creative minds. This is fact or bluff. If the statement is right or correct, you say fact. But if the statement is wrong or incorrect, you say bluff. Are you ready? Let's go! Fact or bluff? Number 1. Hieroglyphics show traces of Arabized influence. If you answered bluff, you are right, because it's the Byzantine period that has Arabized influence in its art. Number 2. Stained glass windows belong to Byzantine period. If your answer is bluff, you are right. Stained glass windows emerged during the Gothic period. Number 3. In the Byzantine period, animals were used as symbols. If you answered fact, then you are correct. Number 4. Hagia Sophia means holy wisdom. It's a fact. Very good. Number 5. Doorway of Romanesque churches are often designed with pointed arch. It's a bluff, because pointed arches emerged during the Gothic period. Good job! Number 6. Venus of Brasimpuy was used as charm to ensure fertility. If your answer is bluff, you got it! Number 7. Paintings during classical Greek era were commonly found in vases, panels, and tombs. It's a fact! Number 8. In ancient Egypt, the dominant features of their paintings were large animals native to the region. The correct answer is bluff. Paintings from ancient Egypt were focused on life after death and the preservation of knowledge from the past. Number 9. The Great Hall of the Bulls belongs to the Byzantine art. It's a bluff. The Great Hall of the Bulls was created during the prehistoric era in the cave of Lascaux. Number 10. Mastaba is a type of Egyptian tomb in a form of flat roof, rectangular structure with outward sloping sides. If you answered fact, you are right. Now, let's get started with our lesson that will focus on artwork guided by techniques and styles as we appreciate the influence of iconic artists in the Western classical art traditions. Let us begin with the prehistoric era. The prehistoric era incorporates all human presence before the development of composing. The craftsmanship is just one piece of information alongside fossils, dust, and different finds that leads to the comprehension of early human life and culture. Their compositions were found inside the caves, which may have been their way of communicating with each other. These paintings may be more of an artifact of archaeological evidence than a picture of humans' first created art. The dominant features in the painting were large animals native to the region. The art in Lascaux was both painted on and engraved into the uneven walls of the cave. The artist working with the edges and curves of the wall to enhance their compositions. The resulting impressive displays depict mainly animals but also a significant amount of abstract symbols and even a human. Let us once again explore the wonders of ancient Egypt. The motivation behind Egyptian works of art was to make the deceased's afterlife place pleasant and to emphasize the importance of life after death. On the other hand, the classical Greek era depicted natural figures with dynamic compositions. Most of the subjects were battle scenes, mythological figures, and everyday scenes. The Kirk style in base painting was named after where the bases were found. This comes with different shapes like Pilite, Lecanis, and Lebes Kamikos. They use a technique called polychromy, a combination of different colors, especially the brilliant ones, in an artistic manner. In Rome, the majority of the artworks were replicated or imitated from the Hellenic Greek period. The fresco technique was utilized in splendidly hued foundations. The lively styles of paintings which had been invented in Greece and Rome live on in the Byzantine period, but this time for Christian subjects. Byzantine artists used mosaics and lively wall paintings. The period's greatest and most lasting legacy is undoubtedly the icons which continue to decorate Christian churches around the world. Buildings in the Romanesque Revival style are most easily identified by their pronounced round arches and heavy massive stone or bricks construction. Most heavy round towers, squat columns, and decorative plaques with intricate or interlacing patterns. Gothic arts included ribbed vaults, buttresses, clustered columns, ambulatories, wheel windows, spires, stained glass windows, and richly carved door tympana. Last time, we have explored various sculptures across different art periods. Now, let us try to examine the techniques and style used in these sculptures. In prehistoric sculptures, they use mammoth bone and ivory in their carving, as well as more perishable woods. In addition to bone and wood, artists also sculpted in stone, especially softer varieties like limestone. The material used were quite diverse, varying according to the region and locality. Ancient Egyptian sculpture was closely associated with Egyptian architecture and mostly concerned the temple and the funeral tomb. Sculptors were also employed for wall reliefs, the capitals of columns, colossal figures guarding the pylons, and for long avenues of sphinxes. Early Greek figures were tense and firm. Their bodies were hidden within enfolding robes. After 3 centuries, Greek models had at long last advanced and indicated all the purposes of human life system and extent. Roman sculptures were made mostly of monumental terracotta. They did not attempt to compete with the freestanding Greek works of history or mythology, but rather they produced reliefs into great Roman triumphal columns with continuous narrative reliefs around. The Byzantine sculpture in the early days was more like an extension of Hellenistic art, where portraits of great impact and aesthetics drama were produced. Sculptures underwent changes very similar to those in architecture. Most Romanesque sculpture was pictorial and biblical in subject. The subject matter was overwhelmingly religious, although secular themes turned up in surprising places. Gothic sculpture is independent of architectural ornament and were primarily created as devotional object for the home or intended as donation for local churches. Although small reliefs in ivory, bone and wood cover both religious and secular subjects. This time, let us try to study the techniques and styles used in architecture from the different art periods. During the prehistoric era, architectural design was based on megaliths or big rocks, which were probably intended for burials. Egyptian architecture was developed in 3000 BC and was characterized by post and lintel construction, massive walls covered with hieroglyphics and pictorial carving, flat roofs and structures such as the mastaba, obelisk, pylons, and the pyramids. And their houses were built of clay or baked bricks. While classical Greek, architecture is best represented by substantially intact ruins of temples and open-air theaters. The architectural style of classical Greece can be divided into three separate orders: the Doric, Ionic, and the Corinthian. Roman architecture is also known as the Concrete Revolution. This included amphitheaters, aqueducts, baths, bridges, circuses, dams, domes, harbors, temples, and theaters. When it comes to the Byzantine era, a central feature of their sculptures was Orthodox Christianity. Hagia Sophia was the most famous and the most spectacular example of Byzantine architecture. Romanesque architecture is known by its massive quality: thick walls, round arches, sturdy pillars, barrel vaults, large towers, and decorative arcading. The most fundamental element of Gothic architecture is the pointed arch, which was likely borrowed from Islamic architecture that would have been seen in Spain at this time. Now that we have experienced artworks guided by techniques and style, and appreciate the influence of iconic artists in the Western classical art traditions, it is time to get your hands working and unleash the great artist in you. Today, we are going to create an artwork inspired by the Gothic era, which is stained glass window. You don't only see them in churches, but we can also see them in different houses as part of the design that gives beauty and brings more light inside the structure. Are you ready? Step 1. Prepare all the materials needed: 1/8 illustration board, pencil, marker, glue, cutter, scissors, and cellophane with 3 to 4 different colors. Step 2. Draw your subject in the illustration board using your pencil. Step 3. Cut the parts that we need to patch our colored cellophane based on your subject. Step 4. Attach the colored cellophane using glue to your design. We are done with our creative stained glass window version. And here are some of the artworks made by my students in Siniloan Integrated National High School. Did you know that we have our own version of stained glass here in the Philippines? Yes, it is kapis. In the Philippines, Kapis can refer to the shells used in the construction of traditional windows, lanterns, decoration, and handicrafts.
Congratulations! You successfully unlocked another symbol in our medallion.
That's it for our art adventure journey. I'm your Sir Chill, and see you on the next episode of Art is Chill, only here on DepEd TV.